Chapter 11, Lesson 3, Part 1, Measures of Variation. Measures of variation are used to determine the spread of data. Quartiles are values that divide the data set into 4 equal parts. First and third quartiles are the medians or the middle number of the data values less than the median, so the first quartile, and the data values greater than the median, which is the third quartile. Interquartile range, or IQR for short, is the distance or the difference between the first and third quartiles of the data set. The range is the distance between the greatest and least data values. So for example, use the data below to find the measures of center. So the first thing we want to do is sort the data from least to greatest. So first we have 122, and then 228, 296, 347, 351, 360, and lastly 338. So what we want to do is we want to divide the data set into 4 equal parts. So the first thing that we want to do is find where the middle is. So we would go from the left to the right, checking off numbers until we get a middle. 347 is in the middle, so this is our median. The median is sometimes also called quartile 2, which I'm going to abbreviate as Q2. And then next we're going to find the first and third quartiles. So the first quartile is the median of the numbers that are less than the median. So of these 3 numbers, whichever is the middle number, that's considered your first quartile. So in this case, 228 would be considered quartile 1. Now the third quartile is the middle number of the right side of the data. So of these 3 numbers, 360 is the median. So this would be quartile 3. So now we have 3 quartiles that split the data up into 4 equal parts. So we have found the quartiles. We found and labeled the first and third quartiles. Now we want to find the interquartile range, IQR, which is the distance between the first and third quartiles. So quartile 3, as we can see below, is 360, and quartile 1 is 228. So the IQR, interquartile range, is the difference between these 2 numbers. So the IQR is 360 minus 228. That equals 132. So the IQR of this data set is 132. The last measure of variation that we want to find is the range, which is just the distance between the greatest and least data values. So just the difference between the largest and the smallest number in the whole set of data. So the range is 383, because that's the largest number in the set, minus 122, because that's the smallest number in the set. This equals to 261. So 261 is our range, 132 is the IQR, and then we have our quartiles 1 and 3, and our median, which is sometimes labeled as the second quartile. Example 1, find the measures of variation for the data. So the first thing that we're going to want to do is sort the data from least to greatest. The next thing we're going to want to do is split the data into 4 equal sections using quartiles. So the first thing I'm going to do is find the middle of the data set. So we have 1 and 70, 8 and 50, 25 and 30. So this one, I end up with two numbers in the middle. So just like in the previous video, when we have two numbers in the middle, to find the median, we have to find the average or the mean of these two numbers. So to find the mean, we find the sum of the numbers and divide by how many numbers we're finding the sum of, which in this case is 2. And then that gives us 55 divided by 2, and that equals 27.5. So 27.5 is the median and the number that would fall directly between these two numbers. So 27.5 is our median, which is also sometimes called the second quartile. Because 27.5 is our median, now when we're trying to find our first and third quartiles, we want to include 25 and 30 as our left side and right side of the data. So this is the middle of the data. So now when we're looking at the left side of the data, we want to include 25 on the left because that's not our median. So the median of the left side of the data is the number 8 because the number 8 is directly in the middle of these three numbers. So 8 is our first quartile. Now when we're finding our second quartile, we want to include 30 in the right side of the data because it's not our median. This is our median. So of these three numbers, 50 is the one that's in the middle. So 50 is our third quartile. So we found our three quartiles. Now we want to find the interquartile range, which is quartile 3 minus quartile 1. Quartile 3 for this example is 50 and quartile 1 is 8. So our interquartile range is 42. The last measure of center that we want to find is the range. The range is the largest number in the set, which is 70, minus the smallest number in the set, which is 1. So 70 minus 1 equals 69, and that's our range for this problem. Example 2. Determine the measures of variation for the data. So just like in the previous two problems, we're going to have the same first step where we order the numbers from least to greatest. Now that the numbers are ordered from least to greatest, we want to split the data into 4 equal parts. So to start, I'm going to find the number that's in the middle, the median. So for this problem, our median is 61 because that's the number that falls directly in the center. This could also be called quartile 2. So now to find quartile 1, we want to look at the left side of the data and we want to find the number that's in the middle. As you can see, there's two numbers in the middle, 58 and 59. So to find the median or the quartile 1 of the left side of the data, we would need to find the mean of these two numbers. This equals 117 divided by 2, and that equals 58.5. Which makes sense that 58.5 is in between 58 and 59. So 58.5 is our quartile 1. Now to find quartile 3, we have to find the middle number of the right side of the data. So we have to find the mean of 64 and 71. This equals 135 divided by 2, and that equals 67.5. So 67.5 is our third quartile. Now to find the IQR, we need to subtract quartile 3 by quartile 1. Quartile 3 is 67.5 minus quartile 1, which is 58.5, and this equals 9. So the IQR for this problem is 9. The last piece that we want to find is the range. The range is the largest number in the set, which in this problem is 78, minus the smallest number in the set, which in this problem is 56. And this equals 22. Try this one yourself to check for understanding, then check your answer with the next portion of the video.